Hello, and welcome to my Season 36 main preview. My name is NoVa, and today I'm going to go in depth on my personal picks for the top 20 of main going into this season. If you aren't in my top 20 but you're wondering where you placed, I'll be posting a spreadsheet with the full rankings after this video is released. Feel free to check it out. Just as a quick disclaimer, these rankings were created before matches started being played this season. I once again ranked all 114 competing teams this season. However, I approached this process differently than I did in Season 35. I learned quite a bit from last time, which will hopefully improve the accuracy behind the rankings, but I also want to remind everyone that while I consider myself an expert on main teams, I'm definitely not an expert at fortune telling. I'll probably be wrong a lot, so don't be offended if I put your team lower than you'd like. I'm doing this for fun, so let's keep it fun. Last time, every individual team was ranked with a number, denoting their placement on my rankings. This time around, I've decided to sort teams below my top 32 into tiers, ranging from B+ to D tier, and ranked my top 32 in the traditional way with numbers. This season feels incredibly competitive, and I believe the preseason consensus is that anyone can beat anyone. This makes ranking teams very difficult. I fully believe that any team within the top 20 could realistically beat any other team in the top 20, and that the difference between the teams in my top 10 is razor thin. As per usual, my rankings tend to favor teams that are actually committed to giving their all to the game. A practicing team with slightly less firepower may be favored over a pug team with more aim. Similarly, rosters that have been together for a long time while practicing received a bump in their ranking as well. Anyway, if you end up liking this video, please feel free to follow me at Nova__FPS on Twitter, as I will continue to make more content like this as the season unfolds. Enough intro though, let's get into the action. To start it off, I'm going to quickly rattle through the teams ranked 20th to 11th before heading into the top 10. MP Trey and Co. round out my top 20 this season on Daddys Boyz. They're keeping it light when it comes to practice this time around, but their leftover systems and chemistry should realistically be enough to get them back to the playoffs. My 19th place team, Orgless Talents, went by Aurora last season and managed to get 3rd/4th in IM in order to play main this season. I actually followed this team's run through playoffs. They play a looser style, especially after kicking their in-game leader Jackro in the offseason, but they're going to try to rely on their hard fraggers Marv and Stilled to get the job done in main. Their lack of structure is what's holding them back from a higher placement in these rankings, as we've seen time and time again that not having a steady in-game leader can cause major turmoil in a team, and the ground underneath their feet does not seem super stable. But if they can overcome those struggles, they may not be Orgless Talents for long. Team GS is my 18th place team this season. A roster that's been everywhere from Open to Premier since their inception in Season 21, the only division they've never seen is Advanced, which will certainly be their goal this season. I expect them to make playoffs again, but I can't really predict where they'll go from there. Dutch's Money Crew is my second highest ranked pug team this season, coming in at 17th place on this list. They definitely have aim, but as I said before, I tend to favor teams that practice over teams that don't. However, with the skill in main this season being admittedly lower than in the past, I can see these guys just running through the less prepared teams to earn their spot in the playoffs. In 16th place is, appropriately, the 16-inch Pistols. They made a name for themselves in Season 34 of Main after falling one match short of Advanced, but they weren't able to replicate that success last season. However, the team has a solid roster now, something that they didn't have the benefit of last season, and I expect that JMO and Zucchini Zach can help propel this team back into the playoffs. Noble comes in quite a bit lower than they did in my last preseason rankings video, where they were known as the Lucky Reapers, and found themselves at 3rd place in my list. However, they failed to live up to their placement and couldn't make playoffs, landing them at 15th this time around. They've since acquired Tactile to help bolster their firepower, but much like 16-inch Pistols, they need to be more like their 3-2 playoffs run in Season 34 than their failures in Season 35. Aqualix gets a big boost compared to the last rankings, coming in at 14th place. I will admit, last season I underestimated these guys, but they proved me wrong, and they're definitely a solid team. Not much to say other than I'll see you guys next week for our match. I hope it's a fun one. My 13th ranked team, HighQ, are on for their 4th season in main. Each season, from their first in Season 33, they managed to end with a 9-7 record. They started off last season with an 8-1 record before coming crashing down and only winning one more game the entire season. I believe that last season may have been the wake-up call they needed, though, for them to finally break 9-7. Up next, we got VCU, a team that appeared on my last power rankings in 6th place. They come in this time at double that, 12th place, due to a somewhat lackluster season 35, where they ended with an 8-8 record. The fundamentals and chemistry this college team has is no joke, and I fully expect them to be able to take down any team above them in this list. The last team outside of my top 10 is my best rated pug team this season, Wocky Sluuush. Second place in IM, this squad consisting of Houston, Mad Cow, and some others who are probably on Smurfs, are definitely the aimer team of the season. However, since they probably don't practice, being that last time I checked Houston is playing Valorant, I can only judge them on what they did last season. And if their intermediate run proved one thing to me, it's that they're good aimers, but they are beatable. Aurora almost took them down in the semis, and then Team Flashpoint 2-0'd them in the finals. For that reason, although I acknowledge their skill, I can't push a team that isn't committing to the game into my top 10. My 10th ranked team, Supremacy Gaming, are no strangers to Main, this season marking their 7th time competing in the division. However, since their second appearance in the division in Season 31, they've been startlingly consistent, making playoffs every single time. The closest they've come to making advanced was in Season 32, where they went 3-2 in playoffs, but since then, they've resided in the 2-2 playoffs range. They've started off last season with a choppy 6-5 record before finally finding their footing and ending with an 11-5. In the playoffs, they unfortunately faced two future advanced teams, Fat Horsecock, whose name I was hoping wouldn't come up this time, and Synergy, who knocked them out of the lower bracket. I think it's just a matter of time before they finally do make the run to advanced, and with another solid season from Pac-Man and Zaki, this definitely could be that time. Coming in at number 9 is Skeet Watergun, another team very familiar with main playoffs, having clinched their spot there 2 consecutive seasons. Flooddy's team found themselves in the same boat as Supremacy, going up against two teams who would go on to make advance that season, Rectify, followed once again by Synergy. Though the first maps of both of these best of threes were incredibly close, they nonetheless lost the series and were forced out of the playoffs with a 2-2 record. These guys almost mirror Supremacy's story, but I'm giving them a slight edge as they seem to perform better, more consistently in the later rounds of playoffs. Keep an eye on Floody and Capiche, two of their better players from last season. A team that's almost as excited to see this rankings video as I am to see them play this season, Team Veloz Riot fills the 8th spot. Watching their run in intermediate last season was super exciting as they blasted their way to a 3rd/4th place with explosive firepower and good teamwork. I think a lot of people are calling them out to be one of the stronger teams this season despite coming up from IM. And with the further reinforcements joining their roster in the form of T-Doy from Scrub Garden and Kermi from Eros in Advanced, this roster is going to be stronger than ever. One thing to look forward to from this team is seeing the duo of Kaki and Gedder, the two highest performers of last season who've been playing together for the past 3 seasons. Their team chemistry should be really solid, and they've practiced a ton. This is a team who really wants to make it further in CS. The only question is whether they'll be able to do it in their first season of main. Another team that has absolutely been the talk of the town this preseason is Team Villainous Academy. Anyone who's familiar with my last video will remember these guys, as they made 7th place in the rankings last season as well. What followed from there was a stellar 13-3 regular season, but a disappointing end to it, where the team was knocked out by the eventual winners, UGK Esports. While last season, they lost Umar. This time around they lost Supa, another key piece of the puzzle that makes up Villainous Academy. They decided to bounce back this time by picking up Mods and JVA. A big hole is left to be filled by Supa's departure though, who had a 93 ADR season for the team, but I still believe in their strong defaults, great coordination, and sound chemistry as a lineup. I think this team is built with foundational Counter-Strike in mind, and in the main division, good foundations alone can get you to playoffs, and this team has much more than just good foundations on their plate. Hey, do you guys remember how last season I was on a team called Ferda Boys and I put my own team 5th and then we went on to go 6-10 in the season? Yeah, well, I've learned my lesson this time and I'm not putting Ferda Boys 5th. Instead, I'm putting ex-Ferda Boys, now known as Aura Gaming, 6th. Okay, hear me out. I've spoken to quite a few people about this roster, and each one of them told me this team is absolutely a contender this season. I myself can even attest that their roster in its current form, after having replaced my current teammate Shepard and I with the duo Volk and Paxton, are much stronger than they were last season. They've practiced almost every single day since last season ended, diving into demos, theories, and lots of scrims. Their edges have been smoothed out, the chemistry between the core, Link, Jonah, and MST has only grown since then, and picking up a duo rather than two individuals was a solid move for the squad. I know that this is going to be a potentially controversial pick for the top 10, but believe me when I say I did not make this decision alone, and I really do believe they belong here. Now, moving on to the famous 5th place spot on my list. Surely he's not going to put his own team 5th for the second season in a row, right? Wrong. I am absolutely doubling down. I saw no other way to go about this. In fact, I felt it would be an absolute waste had I not put my own team 5th again. I received a lot of shit over last season, and rightfully so. So you have to understand that me doing this again can be interpreted in one of two ways. One, I learned the error of my ways last time, and I took a serious look at my own team and all of the competing teams this season, which led me to truly, fully, and absolutely believe that my team definitely deserves the spot this time, whether that be due to solid performances in officials, qualies, or scrims, or maybe because this is a stronger roster than before, bolstered by advanced players, the highest fragging Opera in Season 35 of Main, the #1 clutcher of Season 35 of IM, and the best Mac 10 player on ESEA. All of these things could have led me to place my own team 5th. Or, 2, because my teammate Irish explicitly told me not to put us on the list. I'll let you decide my reasoning. Best part of this is, if we do well, I can say this was a genuine placement, and if we don't, obviously guys, it was a meme all along. Okay, back to serious time with the 4th ranked team this season, Conviction. Boasting one of the cooler logos in Main this season, as well as one of the most impressive runs in Main playoffs last season that didn't net advanced, Conviction are coming in this time hot. Many may not be familiar with Conviction and may be wondering how could they be placed this high? Well, for starters, after a 10-6 regular season, they managed to win their first 2 rounds of playoffs, taking down fellow main team FlyCamu's fan club, as well as, get this, knocking Synergy, yes, the Synergy that beat those teams I mentioned before in playoffs, to the lower bracket, in their first season of Main. They then brought the fight to Fat Horsecock in their 3rd round of playoffs, who they did lose to, but not without taking a map off of the burgeoning advanced team first. Now in the lower bracket, they had to face against the eventual winners of Main, UGK, and managed to push them all the way to double OT on the first map, before eventually losing the series 0-2. Now, all this is impressive enough, but keeping the same 5 to do it again this season seemed like a really solid move. They also took down advanced team Russian Street Party in the recent Mythic Cup, and pushed another advanced team, UU, to overtime in the following round. I think that barring big failures internally, these guys should be a lock for a deep playoffs run. Next up, taking 3rd place in my rankings, is Xcel Esports, a roster that has found its way from open to main playoffs in 2 seasons and has also kept the same 5 since entering main. Cactus, Tribute, PLX2, Hardy, and Merkin are a force to be reckoned with this season. With proper coaching behind them, an excellent work ethic, and some of the best chemistry I've seen in Main, these guys remind me a lot of the winners of Main last season, UGK. A group of friends who truly enjoy playing together and who work really well together. They have solid aim and an even more solid clutch factor, and can get back into rounds they have no right to win. They aren't superhumanly indestructible like some of the teams that have swept through Main in the past, but I don't think any team is this season. As I said at the beginning, this is one of the most even seasons of Main I've ever seen, but I think that this team has all of the pieces to make advanced and then some, and I would love to see them do it. We've arrived at the top 2, and waiting here to greet us is Redux Rising. With some of the sharpest gameplay and aim in Main, it's no surprise to me to see Shade's team featured so highly on my list. However, they've come a long way from where they were as STFU last season, where in my notes I wrote that they lived or died by Shade's performance. Speaking of last season, they found themselves in both my mid-season power rankings top 5 and playoffs after a solid regular 11-5 season. Unfortunately, the momentum they carried stopped there as they went out 0-2 in playoffs with losses to Rectify and Crypto Kings. That being said, they have a much more rounded out roster now, where everyone can contribute to them winning rounds. Redux opted to make one change to their roster in the offseason, replacing Smokey with Pat of the Burger People fame, but it hasn't seemed to slow them down at all. I can easily see this team making it all the way to the finals if they keep up the work they've been putting in, and their aimers show up to their matches. I do hope we get to see a rematch between Crypto Kings and Redux Rising though, as I think we should be expecting a much different result this time. And finally, we've arrived at my pick for the best team in main this season. CarbonX Esports takes the crown at the top of my list. Known as Valkyrie last season, they were just one game short of making Advanced, where they lost 19-17 on the third map of their best-of-3 decider against former Team Verum, now known as 303 Esports. Since that match, 303 have actually poached two of CarbonX's old players, Silas and Suitor, and XWB has since left the team, leaving just Blackblood and K1 to rebuild before the season. This all sounds like it could have been too much to bounce back from, but the two managed to recruit three new players, Kojomo, Kens, and Juicy, the latest of which previously played on playoffs roster TNT as Dynamite. This flurry of changes seems like it made no impact on the team's strength though, as they've since made incredible headway towards proving themselves worthy of the top spot. Managing to take 9 rounds off of MDL side Eclipse in the recent Mythic Cup qualifier, as well as crushing literally everyone they've run into in scrims. I know scrim results don't mean much though. This team has been absolutely grinding in the offseason to make up for lost time, and I firmly believe that they are the team to beat this season. Thank you to everyone who made it this far for watching my video. For every negative comment I received on the last one, I got 3 more positive ones, and I really appreciate the support. Like I said 100 times, I'm doing this for fun, and my word is not law. I just think of it as a fun thing for a scene to look forward to every once in a while, and I'm happy to provide it. It is a lot of work, however, so cool your jets if you aren't happy, please. Anyway, thank you to Counter Nature as always for acting host to my ramblings. You can follow them at Counter Nature on Twitter. And special thanks to Awake, Jonah, Volk, Shepherd, MST, Irish, Jackro, and Shade for your support in the creation of the rankings, and MP Trey as always for the idea to make videos in the first place. Follow me on Twitter at Nova__FPS for more. I'm super close to hitting 400 followers, and I think it'd be cool to finally get there. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.